know about you, but I'm definitely one of those people whose mood is highly dependent on the weather, and lately the weather's just been kinda... So today I'm going to talk about 5 things I really cannot stand about living in Japan. First of all, disclaimer, I've lived here for 3 years. I love Japan, I love Japanese people. These are just a little bit of my gripes and complaints about, you know, living in a culture that isn't yours. I have absolutely nothing against Japan. I think it is a fantastic place, but that being said, there are some things that really could be better. So first of all, there are a lot of inconsistencies with the way things are done here. For example, it's a cash-based society, and that itself is okay. Like, I'm okay having to withdraw cash and pay everything in cash, but the thing is, ATMs have a closing time here. Like, if you want me to pay with cash, why do you put a time limit to when I can withdraw my cash? Another thing is, even though Japan is supposedly so like eco-friendly and environmentally conscious, literally everything that you buy is wrapped in plastic. Everything is individually wrapped in plastic. Like for snacks even, it'll come in a big package with like 20 or so pieces inside. Each individual piece is wrapped in plastic, and it drives me insane how much plastic I use here. Number 2 is the rigidity of all the rules here. I get it, every culture, every society, every country, whatever, has its rules, but Japan sticks to them to a fault. For example, I don't know if you're following along on my Instagram last year when I was taking my driver's license test. That was an ordeal. So what happened was I went in with my paperwork, because you have to go in with your paperwork first and then you can come back another day to take the actual test. So I went in with my paperwork, I took a day off from work for it, and one of my papers did not have my nationality on it. I had my passport, and literally every other single paper that I had there had my nationality on it, but because one paper didn't, they turned me away and I had to come back again, take another day off of work to get it all done, even though it really could have been done that day. I was so frustrated that I actually cried in front of the officer processing all of the papers, and you can tell he felt really bad, but not bad enough to let it slide. So this rules thing, it runs really deep, and there's nowhere that you see it more prominently than in schools. But that is a whole nother video unto itself. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see that. Yeah. School system here is kind of, Number 3 is the drinking culture. First of all, Japan has a zero-tolerance alcohol and driving policy, so if you have even one drink, even a little bit of alcohol in you, you can't drive. While that can be seen as a good thing, it's also kind of a bad thing, because that means if you have just one drink, it's like there's no need to limit yourself anymore because you're not driving anyway, so might as well go all out. And people really take that to the extreme. And it's more than just a drinking as much as you can just to drink as much as you can, but it's also kind of a way to subvert the strictness, the rigidity of the rules here. Being drunk is kind of seen as like your get out of jail free card. It's seen as like this free pass to do things, say things that you wouldn't say while you're sober. And as a female, that gets really creepy sometimes, and the worst part about it is that it's really okay. But again, this ties into this kind of larger issue of strict rules and this crazy work culture that, again, is a whole nother story. Number 4, ethnocentrism. It's amazing how insular Japan is and how a lot of people seem to not think that things happen anywhere outside of Japan. I don't know how many times I've been asked if people in my country eat, say, raw fish or something, and every time I say yes, people in my country do eat whatever it is they're asking about, they're always like, oh, it's because you're from Hawaii. There are a lot of Japanese people in Hawaii. It just blows my mind how people can think that Japan is that special, that literally nothing else happens elsewhere. Another common one that I hear from people living in Japan is that they get asked really often if their country has 4 seasons. And like, I get it, Japan was a closed-off society, it's very homogenous, but in this day and age, I don't think that's an excuse for this kind of ignorance of the wider world. Last but not least are the weebs. This one actually has nothing to do with Japanese people or Japan or Japanese culture, and everything to do with the people outside of Japan who view Japan as like being on this magical pedestal without ever having lived here or even visited in some cases. Just because they've read these things on the internet about how Japan is great at one thing, they seem to think that this country has no faults. And that's one of the really annoying parts about living here, is being on the inside and having these sorts of complaints and then being told they're not true by people who don't have this kind of experience. Anyways, to wrap up, again, Japan is a great country. It's got a lot less problems than a lot of other countries, including my own, but it's still a country with its own flaws, with its own problems, and it's important to see the flaws along with the positive points. Anyways, there you have it. Those are my top 5 things I hate about living in Japan. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!